Hi, my name is Kristen. I'm a licensed therapist in California and also a life coach. But today we always devote my monthly webinars every second Wednesday at 9:30 a.m. Pacific time to talk about all things relationships, because the idea is the more I educate you about how our brain develops, how our childhoods impact our adulthoods, what leads to addiction, to unhealthy communication, I hopefully can empower you with the language to show up in your relationships, talk about things, get feedback, and really harness the tools that we need to navigate the madness of doing human relationships. It always blows my mind. My husband is a financial manager and I'm a therapist. And we always talk about these two really central pieces in life, how to handle your finances, how to not make really unhealthy financial decisions, and how to communicate with your partners and the people in your workplace, and how to manage conflict and adversity. These are such central pieces to everybody's everyday life, but we really don't learn anything about it growing up. Really, when you look back, it's all about role modeling. That's how we learn everything is how to manage our emotions from role modeling it, seeing it from other people, how to show love, feel love, experience love, get back up off the ground after getting kicked down by life. That's all through role modeling. And so I really encourage all of you. First, I just want to say kudos to those who find themselves here. You're looking, you're searching, you're asking for help. Those are all the right things. Putting yourself around a community that can help you. But this will only help your process in feeling more empowered in how to deal with your relationship crises, how to deal with yourself, and really clear up your path forward. So with that said, we'll continue on. We've been working on for the past 7 months, because it's been 7 months, Tammy, from my book and Scott Brassard's book, we've been talking about the 12 steps, which is known for Alcoholics Anonymous had the 12 steps, and it was these 12 steps, suggestions, guidelines to help you stay sober, stay healthy, build healthy relationships, etc. And through my work in working with addicts, but I don't identify as an addict, I found that these were very universal classical guidelines. And I wondered why the average community didn't know about the 12 steps. We kind of know what the golden rule is. Even if you're not religious, you could probably even state what the 10 commandments are, or a few of them. But most of us had no idea what the 12 steps were. So I set out writing this book to kind of educate people and say, look, you don't need to be an addict. You don't even necessarily need to be in a relationship with addicts. Yes, 12 steps can be life-changing for those sets of people. But if you're just struggling with everyday interpersonal or personal crises, you're unhappy, you find yourself going down the same unhealthy patterns over and over again, really taking a look at these 12 steps can be life-changing. I lay out all the different ways that they really start chipping away at your mind, body, and soul to give you that really internal change within yourself that shows up in relationship dynamics with other people. So this month we are on step 7. And that is when we humbly ask God to remove our shortcomings. Now, hang in there. I think a lot of people, it turns people off from the 12 steps because they use the word God or higher power a lot. But the first thing I want you to hear, and even Scott will say it, who has decades of recovery under him, and maybe Tammy will speak on this too, is that you don't need to have this kind of classic deity, monotheistic approach to using the humbly asking a God or a higher power to remove your shortcomings. In a nutshell, all of these 12 steps have 3 basic goals, in my opinion. I have them written down here to remind you: to keep you conscious, to keep you connected, and to keep you practicing shame resiliency. Because those are 3 things that when you are conscious of your behavior, conscious of your body, conscious of your feelings, conscious, like connected to everything going on here, connected to other human beings, paying attention to their faces, asking questions, staying curious, and then practicing the constant shame resiliency that has to happen because we always have those voices within us saying, are you enough? Or really you blew it. I don't know if you should be asking for that boundary because I don't know, maybe this is too much and maybe someone doesn't value this. And you have to show up this way because without that, that's your superhuman strength. They don't value that part of you. You know, all these things that you have to push back against. These are the 12 steps help these issues stay front and center in your life. And that's really what step 7 is about. It is not about the humbly asking. It is, I mean, it's about being humble, surrendering, and asking for help with your shortcomings, asking help with owning that these are the things that I'm constantly struggling with. But these are the acts of staying conscious and connected and then practicing the shame resiliency. So let me review really fast. Steps 1 through 3 are essentially, they kind of say, it's like, hey, I can't, this higher power or they, my community can, so let's let them. It's steps 1 through 3 are the practice of saying, I'm struggling, I have problems, what I've been trying isn't working for me, I'm at my rock bottom. And so I see a community of people who've pulled out of something like this. I want to go to there. I want to be like them. Or I have this higher power that maybe I need to ask for forgiveness or unconditional love, or I can't trust humans, but I can trust maybe this higher, greater deity outside myself. So let them. That's steps 1 through 3. Step 4 is digging into the muck of our life. It's an inventory of our good, bad, light, dark. It's like kind of sitting down, like before we can create a new game plan, we need to look at all the former game plan strategies that we've used and what we've gone through and that impact us, and really come to the new game plan strategy with much more information about what's been going on in the past. And then step 5 is shame resiliency. So if you watch that, it's the act of shame is back here in the darkness of our brain. It runs all the time. It's as a part of our human experience as breathing, wanting to be loved, wanting to be in connection with people. As long as we want to connect with others, we're going to have a pushback system in us that says, ooh, you want that a lot? What if you are not enough for it? What if you're too much, too little, not enough of this, not enough of that? So you have to constantly speak it out. Those shame voices, stay connected to them, be aware of them, be conscious of them, and then share them with another person, with a safe group, with a higher power, but something, because you have to practice those shame. The more you can pull it out of this dark part of your brain into the conscious world, the more it's going to help dissipate. And then when someone else or another group of people meets it with empathy, compassion, non-judgment, it'll help break it apart. Then step 6 is you start, after all of those foundational steps, you start working on that, changing the internal parts of you, beginning to work on identifying your shortcomings, the unhealthy patterns that you have going on. The 12 steps calls them character defects. But again, with all the wording here, if you don't like it, you can adjust it to a framework that is palatable to you. But they say, you know, just start becoming ready to ask your God or your higher power, or your entity, to start working on these shortcomings. It's just another word for saying, let's figure out these patterns and name them. And then number 7 is another action step, which is asking God, humbly asking God to remove our shortcomings. Look, if you don't believe in a higher power, in a spiritual practice, then fine. If that doesn't work for you, that does not mean you can't go further down these 12 steps. It is simply the act of every day, I'm going to stay conscious and aware and connected to the fact that when I'm not in my greatest state, when I'm hungry, angry, lonely, tired, when I'm stressed, when I'm putting too much stuff on my plate, when I don't feel appreciated, when I feel victimized or scared, these are the not so great attributes that come out of me. I can be rageful. I can be an S talker, a crap talker. I can get violent. I can want to numb out with drinking or spending money or eating chocolate cake. These are all things that I'm capable of. I know myself so well, and I'm so conscious and I'm so connected to myself that these are the acts of regularly asking for progress, not perfection, to do better. because now that I know better, I need to work to do better. So you just need to stay conscious, aware. And then Scott adds in an important part is also to work in the contrary, right? So let's say one of my shortcomings is I am quick to anger, right? I can, by the end of the night, I am tired of parenting. I'm tired of thinking. I'm tired of doing logistical planning. My ability to be patient and graceful and empathetic and understanding is limited. So I know that about me. And so I know that I need to take some extra breaths. I need to take better breaks. I know those are my shortcomings. So I can either just consciously be like, F it, that is what it is. I work hard. My kids bug me. It's too much. So why didn't you brush your teeth? Why aren't you doing stuff you need to do? Or I can stay conscious and aware that these are my shortcomings. This is what I'm capable of doing. How do I want to show up in spite of them? What are the contrary behaviors that I am responsible for taking in order to try to be better now that I know better? So it's that really interesting thing that the steps do all the time that I don't think other models constantly ask you to do, which is even though stuff's happening out here to you and at you, it's saying, look, you have a part in all this. Maybe it's not your fault. It's never your fault that your partner's an addict or that someone lies and manipulates or that you have to run yourself ragged to keep your family going. But you always have a responsibility of managing your body, your response to things. And I really think that's what step 7 is about, is that if I am regularly, humbly asking a higher power, whether it's through having conversations out loud, talking to other people about it, praying about it, meditating on it, having a mindful practice around it, these are ways of making me stay conscious and aware of them. It helps with that mind, body, and soul shift that will get you there every day. There's more and more and more research that shows that if you just have, positive ways that you talk to yourself, if you have the framework, the growth mindset, right, where something's not this is good or this is bad. It's like, did you do your best? Can you try better? Did you put everything in it? What do you feel like you need to do better, to do more? How do you want to show up? How do you want to be seen? These are the different shifts that you need for your mind, body, and soul change. Now, let me just say, we use the word humble, and let me say what Scott says. Step 7 is about achieving humility. Humility is a word that is often understood, conflated with the word humiliation, which is nearly always considered unpleasant. While humiliation sometimes does lead to humility, that is not necessarily or always the case. Humility is simply seeing the truth of one's life and one's place in this world. It is the art of being right-sized, not too big, like self-entitled, grandiose, rules don't apply to me, I can do whatever the hell I want, screw the consequences, but also not too small, coming always from a place of being ashamed, unworthy, defective, etc. So this humility is the act of just kind of, wow, I'll tell you what humility does. It really knocks out those defense mechanisms in ways, if I would puff up my chest and pretend to be bigger than I am, or if I am brought to my knees by a crisis, which a lot of betrayed partners are, those just knock out all defenses that tell you that you're going to need help. You're going to need something to love you through this. You're going to need something to trust, even though you don't trust any other human beings. The way that addicts need to be humbled is, I think, kind of the way Scott was saying it, is that they're very kind of like tunnel visioned, and they just know their coping skills, their acting out behaviors, their addictive behaviors are this coping skill, this best friend that has kind of gotten them through life to this point. It all worked until it just stopped working, right? And so they have the humble experience or the humility experience of realizing their best thinking got them here. It is way worse than they realized. All their tunnel vision has now led to lots of lying and sneaking around and harmful behaviors that don't just impact their lives, but the people around them. That's the humility of addicts, and they kind of need their face humbly shoved into it a little bit to help them expand from here to seeing the whole picture around them so they can be conscious, connected, and start building shame resiliency. For the betrayed partners, it's a little bit different because a lot of them are saying, like, I don't need humility. I just got my butt kicked. But that's actually the part where you can begin to be set free. I don't know a betrayed partner that feels like they handled everything beautifully and gracefully. I don't know a betrayed partner that isn't afraid to share his or her story with somebody because it's so drenched in shame and hurt and pain. But it's through the humility of those things that have brought them to their knees that bring this capacity for empathy and compassion for other people who are going through that, to show up for them, to say, oh my gosh, I'm down here and I have the humility to realize I ain't going to get out of this alone. I need help because right now I'm doing things that I didn't like. I feel like another entity spirit takes over my body and I find myself throwing dishes, shouting violent threats, sneaking around, like trying to find out what my partner is doing, all these things that feel humiliating. But really what it is just, it's your body trying to seek safety. And it is your body desperate to feel safe and to be able to be willing to trust and feel vulnerable again. And it's through those experiences that let you find that help that you need, to go to those therapists who understand betrayal trauma, to go to that group of other men or women who know what it's like to suddenly be throwing dishes at someone or feel like a demon has taken over your body and you have no control of what you're doing. And then just the humiliation or the pathetic is the word that I hear people use a lot, of feeling like they're out of control in this process. The humility is the realization that we are all out of control, that we have such limited control in this world, and that we really need to ask for help from a higher power, from a group of trusted loved ones, and practice this, that despite there's chaos and madness going on around us, that we can still find this practice within us to, again, pray, humbly ask a higher power, reach out to our supportive community, our non-judgmental community, practice mindfulness and breathing and recentering and grounding within ourselves to all try to work towards being better and doing better. So let me see what else that we want. And regarding the higher power, the final kind of comments about that, and I think I said this with step 6, is that even if you don't have a practice of having a God or going to a church or having some kind of other spiritual practice, it's important to kind of step back and say, wow, when I'm in this state of crisis, when I've been brought to my knees by what's happened to me in this life around me, this madness that I see every day, the lack of control that I have is so humbling, that you can use a higher power, something outside you, to say, wow, I have tried everything to this point. I've tried the therapist, I've tried the chocolate cake, I've tried the shopping, I've tried to be in the PTA queen, I've tried, begging my partner to go get help or to go do some kind of practice, but I need something else outside of that, something in a higher realm and a higher power to release this to surrender it to put at that entity's feet, because I need something to put this at, because sometimes it can feel like a storm, a giant chaotic storm that feels so like it's eating you alive. And there's just something that you need to put it to, if that makes sense. Maybe Tammy can help me with a better language there. So that is the basics on step 7. For step 6 and 7, Scott and I have some really great exercises. We have what kind of a circle plan, which is what we use for sex addiction recovery plans to create the sobriety plans. But even non-addicts can kind of start owning what their center circles are, their middle circles, and their outer circles. Is, center circles are these relapse behaviors, these things that I just absolutely don't want to ever get back to. It is my goal to be out of these behaviors before. It might be some kind of numbing behavior, drinking, spending too much money, raging, talking crap about your partner, who knows, throwing dishes, getting violent. I don't know. These are absolutely my defects and shortcomings. I never want to get back to them. The middle circle is the things that could possibly lead you to getting back to those. So it's really important at identifying patterns. So when I'm not sleeping enough, when I'm putting too much on my plate, when there's a lot of travel, summer camp schedules, other things, maybe not maintaining my practice of prayer or yoga or working out or eating right, celebrating, not celebrating enough, having arguments with people. These are all things that aren't necessarily bad parts of me, but they chip away at my consciousness, my connectedness, and build upon my shame voices that can lead me to those center circles. And then the outside circle is what I'm doing this all for, my goals, my values, what I hope to get by continuing to fight the good fight. If I am conscious, if I am connected, if I practice shame resiliency regularly, these are all the things that I could be getting in the end. More family time, being more present with everybody, more intimate connection, a greater spiritual connection with whatever that spiritual entity is, professional goals, personal goals, traveling more, whatever. You get to create it. It's kind of like a great vision board, but without just looking at the future, it's looking at the past, the current patterns, how to avoid them, what gets you close to relapsing with them again, and then why you're doing this all for. The other steps are affirmations, which is, Scott says when he works with his sponsors on step 7, sponsees on step 7, he has them write them all down, right? So my problem, let's say if my character defect is I am a gossiper, right? So when I'm not feeling good about myself, I'll look at other people who are doing it all wrong. Or if I feel attacked by somebody, I won't go directly to them to deal with it. I'll maybe pick up the phone with a friend and just start talking crap. Can you believe so-and-so did this and that, to make myself feel better about something that happened? That's not authentic. That's not being congruent. That's not being the best me that I want to be. So it's my character defect. So if I own that, and then you can say some of your affirmation. So today I will go directly to the source to kind of courageously talk about something instead of talking about someone behind the back. I will breathe and I will take 10 minutes before I pick up the phone to try to say something negative. I will think before I text. I will think before I talk. I will think about how this is going to serve my goal and this relationship with this person before I do this behavior. It's acknowledging your shortcoming and then coming up with some affirmations and also contrary behaviors. And that is step 7, ladies and gentlemen.
With humility, I loved what you shared, that, Scott wrote. For me, it's always been a clear and honest understanding of who and what I am. And that means the right size. It isn't that I'm the most horrible person or, poor me. It's like, and even some of my character defects, they're also my strengths. So I'm really clear that some of the things that are my biggest assets are also challenges for me if I'm not using them properly, so to speak. So it's been a process of understanding, and I don't, character defects, people get, hung up, like you said, on the names, I think if I understand it with an inventory in step 4, I have to understand what's in the store. I need to know what I have. What am I working with, so that I can go from there. If I am clueless, that doesn't serve me or anyone at all well. So, and with higher power, and I know people get all tripped up on religiosity, but I can't speak for partners and other people, but, for addicts, we have been trying all our lives to do things on our own, and our best thinking, is a disaster. I can tell you it's only Wednesday, and I can tell you a dozen examples this week of people who, I've talked to, and I get off the phone and I just go, it's just sad that they're going, well, I need to think about this for a while. I'm like, well, if you've reached out to me, nobody calls me, that isn't in pain and struggling. I mean, it just doesn't
But
happen,
like worst crisis of their life, call
Yeah. And
Tammy.
so yeah. And then it's like, well, and I start getting all the why I can't. And I'm like,
Mhm.
I'm sorry. And, keep doing what you're doing. And, but, I always hope that they get help, not just for themselves, but for their partners and loved ones as well. But as soon as an addict is saying, well, I need to think about this. And for a while, I just go, oh, worst place for an addict to do is here.
Right?
The higher power thing, it was, like I found a group of people who had done something that I couldn't do. It is find some recovery. I didn't know how to do that. So having those people show me how to do that, that was a higher power thing. I mean, that is like amazing that they figured it out. So just leaning into that and, was a huge step for me because I had, the shame of, how could I do all I was brought up in, the religiosity. And, then my behavior clearly did not align with
Yeah.
what the 10 Commandments were sharing. So, shame and all of that. So I really had to find a very different path. And the higher power I have today is very different than what I grew up with. And that, that's my choice. But I think, looking at it, for me, God is love. And if I just look at it as intense love, man, that's a good thing for me to remember. So we have a couple questions.
We do.
Is there an effective cure for intimacy fear of my husband rooted his early childhood trauma, abuse, enmeshment? What are the boundaries that we as a couple need to set for my mother-in-law? Ooh. So this sounds like some mother enmeshed men stuff, don't you think?
It does. So I always say the intimacy or avoidant attachment. So when I hear intimacy fear, rooted in his early childhood trauma, abuse, enmeshment, that goes to attachment science, in my opinion. If you really want to read more about that, I think Dan Siegel, Alan Shore write very intelligently and scientifically about the way our brain is formed and wired around our early relationships. However, there's really great science that shows that even if we experience childhood trauma, abuse, enmeshment issues in our childhood and got wired around to be avoidant, to kind of keep everybody here externally, have deep fear or like smothering reactions to when you try to love me or need me. Yeah, like that is repairable because our brain can be rewired. So I'm going to encourage you to go look at one of my videos on attachment science and learn about that. But in the most basic way, a lot of addicts are intimacy avoidant because essentially what addiction is, it's an intimacy disorder. At some point in their life, we are all wired to be very socially engaged to do this whole, kind of chaos thing called human relationships. We have wiring in us to want to do that and kind of move about the cabin with feedback and pushback from other people. And that's how we grow and change and move forward. But at some point, addicts, usually through their trauma and some their biology, their genetics, said, let's see, I could either do that human engagement or I could go to my drug of choice. I could go to the prostitutes, the pornography, the alcohol, the drugs, and have a deep rooted, intimate connection with this. And they go here because I know exactly what I'm going to get from this source. All you humans out here, you are too messy, too uncertain. And oh, the more I do it, the more I tell myself, oh, you can all act like you want to know me or, say you love me or want to spend time with me. But if you really knew about this world, if you really knew about this whole thing that I've been doing, you really don't love this. And so it drives you more to this type of behavior. So that is the push-pull or the constant push away and intimacy disconnection that happens through addiction. And the repair for that is, believe it or not, is intimacy. So intimacy can often usually start in 12-step meetings. I think there is a reason why we all push people towards 12-step meetings is because what it is a safe, non-judgmental place for people to be forced to start sharing this dark part of their story. This has got to come out. The story that they tell themselves is if anyone knew this, they would be pariahs. No one could love them. They'd be exposed for all the consequences they've been avoiding their entire life. So they got to push it out there. And then when they start hearing other people have the exact same story as them, love them in spite of them, support them in spite of all that, it amazingly starts rewriting their brain, rewiring it, and helping them to see that I can be truthful, I can be transparent, I can be vulnerable, I can connect with other people. And that helps rewire the childhood trauma. Now, regarding the boundaries that as a couple you need to set with your mother-in-law, yes, you are the primary relationship. So the primary relationship needs to feel safe. In order to feel safe, there needs to be consistency, predictability, communication, willingness to repair when things go wrong or when things don't go well or when you have feedback for the other person. They need to lean into each other for self-regulation and co-regulation. Those are all what healthy, secure relationships have. And that way you can kind of take on the world because you have a healthy pair bonded relationship. So you both need to, I don't know what's going on with the mother-in-law. I don't know how she crosses boundaries. I don't know how she makes you feel unsafe. But you both need to just talk about, look, the story I tell myself, or I don't feel safe when maybe she was a holder of secrets. Maybe she helped with acting out. Maybe she enables and kind of makes it, oh, you're perfect. No, you know, your wife's crazy. That's the problem. Is just say, hey, I don't think that she's the voice of pushing you to do the right thing. I don't think that she's helping you stay accountable. I think that now's the time to realize your consequences, not be spared from them. So just things like that. That's where boundary setting can show up.
And if you perceive that enmeshment might be an issue, Dr. Ken Adams wrote Silently Seduced and When He's Married to Mom. He's also done a podcast, as have Kristen, on actually she's done several on sex, love, and addiction. So you can find those on sexandrelationshiphealing.com. But like, can you speak to, because an effective cure for intimacy? I mean, I never feel like there's a cure for all of these things. I mean, to me, it's like it's a journey. So right. I'm concerned that setting up for a cure is maybe the wrong goal.
Well, because remember, as long as you want to love people and have them in your life, which most of us have the wiring for that, you are going to have that pushback force in you that says, what if you're not enough for it? What if that screw up you did? What if that thing you said? What if that weird thing you got going for you makes you not lovable? So there's no cure for having fear or kind of a hesitation to want to be loved, because that you'll always have shame present. You just have to have a shame resiliency practice, which includes, like I was telling you, speaking it out, owning your story, sharing it with people, having it received with empathy and compassion. That's the best we can do, friends. That's the best we can do. It's kind of walk around with our fragility, with our vulnerability, with our imperfections, and show up with them. Because then hopefully it'll be, courage is contagious, and people will also be like, oh, you got that? I got that too. And then we all go, oh, we all have it. Can we love each other in spite of it? Sure, let's try.
Yeah, and actually really connect versus the facades that people are showing something. Okay, next question. How do you break the repetition compulsion that can lead trauma survivors to narcissistic abuse into relationships in adult life?
That's really hard, because again, I think that's leaning towards that concept that if you love someone and you're in relationship with them and they're not healthy, or they're having their own struggle, that there's something wrong with you. I mean, maybe I'm misreading that, but you have to just be really careful with the framework of what you're saying. Yes, if you feel like you're doing the definition of insanity, so you feel like you are doing everything within yourself to be the best person, to be honest, transparent, to do your own work, and your partner continues with the narcissistic abuse or relationships, in your adult life, then cry wolf, wave your hand, go to some meetings. There's now the Pro Dependence Anonymous meetings. There's sex and love addiction meetings, if those are appropriate for your particular issues. There's Al-Anon meetings. There's Emotions Anonymous meetings. There's a lot of places, or even just support groups in general, where you can join survivor groups, or you can join people who are struggling with similar unhealthy patterns. Because what you're just saying is that if I have a trauma repetition, if I have a wiring in my body that tends to be attracted towards this really unhealthy trait, I tend to, go to this way. Like a client the other day in a workshop was saying, when stuff gets bad, I like grab my bags and I run, either metaphorically or literally. And she's just like, I'm aware of that. That's what I do. So now she's got her team of people that she kind of like goes to, and now she knows maybe initially if she runs, she just kind of needs to pause and then have that uncomfortable phone call, or come back again when she calms down and kind of down regulates her trauma response, and then starts dealing with the uncomfortable humanness of the messiness of the relationship. So it's just kind of being aware, again, remember staying conscious, staying connected, and the shame resiliency, but having those down regulation skills as well, and trying to do the contrary of what's not working for you, but keeping your support community around you to keep you aware and accountable in the process.
I think what you shared about the 3 circles too is like, if you're starting to get into that middle circle area, I mean, you've got identified things that you go, oh, I'm starting to pack my bags to get ready to run, like you used for the example just now. Okay, I'm packing my bags. Well, rather than packing my bags, let me go back out to my outer circle. Let me call a friend. Let me call somebody who knows my pattern, and I'm really stressed. So you have the ability to interrupt the cycle rather than just repeat. We talk about addiction cycles, and I'm not sure if this is a partner, doesn't matter, because those cycles repeat. So if we are able to interrupt it at some point, we have an opportunity to act rather than just react. So there are some resources for trauma survivors, and I don't remember them off the top of my head. Feel free to email me, tami@seekingintegrity.com, and then do tell me if you are a partner or an addict, because there are some different resources for each of you. There are some common, but there are some adult survivor groups that I can connect you with as well. So next question is, do you have any tips on how to navigate this path of healing when you can't clearly see where the path is in front of you? Welcome to life, and where it will lead. I'm keen and eager to engage in the journey, but I find it difficult to navigate the path, as lots of different paths or help are apparent and not sure which way to go. Continuing on the above, I know it's different for everyone, but are there any insights into length of healing or steps of healing for partners and addicts?
Again, I think the more you listen to these podcasts or these webinars, I think you start hearing things that resonate with you. Because what I'm kind of hearing is, oftentimes when we have all this confusion and lack of clarity on how to move forward, a lot of this relational abuse is insidious. Like we're that frog boiling in the pot, and we don't quite feel the temperature coming up, and we don't feel our skin burning. And so the more you can educate yourself on understanding what it's like to be a partner of an addict, or what addiction is all about, you really start understanding how you need to move forward. I mean, I can't tell you for my gaslighting videos or for my betrayal trauma videos, no one gets educated on those things in a normal environment. Even just kind of basic therapists don't often know about gaslighting and emotional abuse and manipulation and a lot of addictive type behaviors and how it impacts their partners. That once you start hearing it, you start going, oh my gosh, that's what is happening. Oh my gosh, that's what my body's been doing. And so with that education and that empowerment, right? Because all this stuff is in that insidious dark part, back part of your brain. You can bring it to your executive functioning and start saying, okay, how do I want to move forward from here? What do I need to ask for? What do I need to feel safe again? So I always encourage lots of education by skilled, appropriately trained people, and then getting you into groups of people to kind of, again, do that feedback with. Look, this is what's going on. This is how I'm feeling. This person's really abusive, but I keep wanting to text them and call them. And then some of the people that you meet and have a bond with, yeah, me too. I get that. You know what? Tonight, instead of texting him or her, call me. Or let's go to dinner tonight instead of you texting, call. Can we just put one day in between you wanting to text them and reach out to them again? And then maybe the next time it'll be 2 days. And then the next day it'll be 3 days, because mixed in with your empowerment and your education and your work towards doing the contrary action, with my support, with my non-judgmental love and empathy and compassion, we can move mountains.
So the timing, unfortunately, still is, it depends, but you getting support for you and guidance for you will help you regardless of what, the loved one chooses to do. Many couples, I talk to them all the time, many couples find a healing path. Some people, just absolutely refuse, like we were talking about earlier, to get help or do things to change. So I always hope for the best. Okay. Is it possible for a betrayed partner to heal without support groups and therapy? I sure wouldn't want to.
Yeah. You're right. So what came up for me is, sure, the human spirit is amazing. So I don't want to pretend like the word is never. However, there are many things that happen in the dynamic of betrayal to the betrayed partner. We call them like relational traumas because they are traumas that have occurred because of the relationship. The addict has made promises that he or she broke. There's often gaslighting involved, manipulation involved, lying. You experience where you feel like, am I crazy? You feel so dysregulated because your environment's so unsafe that you do things that are out of your nature, right? You become a detective, you throw things, you scream expletives, things that you never knew that you were capable of. And I just find the safest place to heal and the most effective place to heal is to be around a group of several of those men or women who are on a similar journey, because there is nothing more shame resiliency building than when you're like, oh my God, I did this thing. I didn't even want to admit it last week, but this is what happened. And I felt crazy and psychotic and I'm ashamed of myself and I don't know what to do. And they share it. And without fail, every time 3 people are like, yeah, me too. Yeah, I get it. I know it. Then the therapist steps in, the very well-educated therapist who tells them the dynamics of why, their brain was wired to do that, what's serving them when they did those behaviors. Yes, you want to do better and be better. And these are the contrary actions you can take. These are the deep breathing exercises. These are the tools you can use to try to do better and show up better. But you need to forgive yourself. And also, I think in the most basic sense, when you're showing up every day or every week or every month to support groups and therapy, there is nothing like that to keep you accountable. Because if you keep showing up and sharing the same stories of relapse, the same stories of crazy making behavior, the same stories of X, Y, and Z, not only is it just seen there, like you have to realize that you're going to have to say this to them again. You're going to have to keep talking about it. You see it on their faces, but then you also start feeling it in your body. It helps with the consciousness, keeping it conscious, keeping you connected to your body and other people, and also building the shame resiliency practice that is so important for life. So it's possible, but I say, why would you want to stay isolated when you're getting your butt kicked in a relational crisis?
I mean, sometimes it's like, oh, somebody says something, you go, oh, I hadn't even thought of that, like just having that different framework. Can you read a bunch of books? Yes, on sexandrelationshiphealing.com under resources, you'll see bunches of books. Can you listen to podcasts? Can you watch webinars? Yes, you can do all of those things, but man, it's really nice to have somebody to talk to that, gets it, just gets it. So I hope there's a Betrayed Partner group at 12:30 today Pacific time on sexandrelationshiphealing.com, all free. I would invite you to just, pop in and they're all moderated. All of those drop-in groups are moderated so that they're a safe space for people. So
I was going to say, that I have monthly small workshops for betrayed partners.
I was meant
don't
to
accept more than
too.
8 people because I want it to feel safe. And I will say half the people there, it's the first group that they've done since they found out what happened, since they discovered their partner's addiction. Half of them are like, I didn't want to do this. I was scared as hell to join this group. But now, thank God I have, because you're the first people I'm being honest with. I can share this story with. I can feel like I'm not crazy. I see so much gained from these groups.
And where can they find that?
On my website, kristensnowden.com.
Yeah. Oh, it says, hi, I'm in Kristen's group. It's so helpful. And I tell you, when people are looking for support for betrayed partners, I give out Kristen's website and say, check it out. So all of these things are options. You get to pick, like I said earlier, take what you need, leave the rest. But man, if something works for you, great. If that's not quite the right fit, figure out what needs to be different and find that. There are so many, there are still not enough resources, but there are a lot of resources. So getting support, you don't have to do this alone. So, okay, next question. How do I work on not re-experiencing trauma when I meet someone like my ex, or when I'm out in public, because I don't want to see someone who assaulted me? Ooh, don't like the chance of seeing someone in public who raped me and the police will not arrest or do anything about him. Wow.
I'm sorry. It's very traumatizing. I've done a couple of videos on trauma, on betrayal trauma treatment, on just trauma treatment in general. According to a lot of experts, the scientific or evidence-based ways of helping someone heal their trauma. So what you're describing is PTSD. That even though I may not be in that life-threatening event, even though I may not actually be in an experience where I should fear for my life, it's just close enough or just generally applicable enough to the past experience where I did fear for my life, where I was desperately scared. And your brain is lazy, so it doesn't want to differentiate between the two. So it just generally wide swath says, oh, that person looks like him, talks like him, or acts like him, or it's just a man in general, you're in danger. So I'm going to ignite the fight, flight, or freeze response in you. I'm going to cause you to have all those stress hormones release as if you are being threatened. That's PTSD. It's post-traumatic stress disorder. It's that you continue to have the symptomology as if the threat still exists. And so the evidence-based ways of treating those kind of experiences, my go-to or my recommendation is EMDR. So it's eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. It's I explain it in a couple different videos, but it's finding a therapist or professional psychologist, whatever, who is certified. They do EMDR informed therapy. So watch out for that. I don't know about that.
Interesting.
They do informed version. So you want EMDR, if you're going to pay the money for a therapist, you might as well get someone who knows what they're doing. So EMDR or somatic experiencing, because the idea is that your body gets stuck in that fearful state. And so somatic experiencing has different exercises and experiences to push you through and get you to transcend into and out of that state. There's internal family systems, which is also supposed to be evidence-based, and also anything that gets you, again, to remain conscious, connected, and go through the shame resiliency practices. So trauma is a disconnecting event, right? So I described, even though that man's not the one who raped me or assaulted me, my body thinks it is. So I am disconnected from the potential reality So I need to work on keeping my mind and body present. And so Bessel van der Kolk's a huge fan of yoga practices and certain types of mind body connection where there's a lot of physical exercises where you have to be deeply conscious of where your body is moving and where it's going, qigong and tai chi and yoga and all this stuff that I was like, that sounds like way crazy hippie, but he is Harvard like educated medical doctor and he does actual scientific studies on it, and he finds that these things work. So when your body tries to generally tell you, oh, this is very close to your life threatening event, you should freak out because you're probably going to die, you can stay conscious and connected with your body enough to stay present, to really assess that, right? This is your fast acting survival brain that's telling you to freak out and run or don't talk to that person or don't connect or don't trust. And then your executive functioning needs to turn on to say, okay, is this just my trauma response? Do I need to enact some deep breathing, some other, I'm simplifying it, but I need to take a couple other extra steps to determine if I'm truly under a level of threat or if this is actually a safe experience. So it's a long process, but the short answer is find someone who is certified in some kind of trauma, evidence-based trauma treatment.
Well, and I think particularly for this one, because I think that there's the perceived and the trauma response, but I'm also hearing like this person is still in the same locale as somebody who actually raped, that there was real violence. So I think really critically important to understand when is danger real and when isn't, but
Yep.
but I just beg you, whatever you need to do to be safe, because clearly you were violated against. And and Kristen, I have heard about brain spotting. I have only looked into it briefly, but that's another modality for trauma work. And are you familiar with that one?
Yeah, a colleague of mine does brain spotting, and the way she's described it to me is it's just a deeper entity. So when EMDR, it works through eye movement, desensitization, and reprocessing. So it enters through the eye, right brain, left brain stimulation. And brain spotting was created by a man who's EMDR certified and had worked in EMDR, but he found there was a particular point in the eye movement where he felt like they got deeper into it. And so she's a huge fan of it, and I think she's a highly effective trauma therapist. So I trust her opinion. But yeah, she says she almost doesn't even do talk therapy anymore. She does EMDR and brain spotting.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, look those up on YouTube.
Yeah.
Everyone, if you want to find out more. But yeah,
Qualified,
they can be really
certified people, though.
certified,
Please.
right?
Yes, yeah.
Look for their. I think to this day, like just like ITAP's the only one that does like CSATs, even though there are sex addiction training therapist other certifications, like EMDRIA is I think the only organization that actually certifies EMDR. And then brain spotting, I think most people when they get brain spotting, they are EMDR certified. It's kind of an entity underneath EMDR, but I'm not sure.
Yes, you're right. So and you mentioned Bessel van der Kolk, and I just want to, because he's got a complicated name, but he wrote The Body Keeps Score. And so when you're talking about physical manifestations of trauma, that's true. There really are. I hear often from partners who have autoimmune or other physical ailments, and the chronic PTSD, that they're experiencing, with the betrayals is causing them real physical. I said something to somebody the other day. It's like secondhand smoke. You're not smoking, but you're ending up with the issues that are caused by somebody else's behavior. So
yeah.
So you guys, I'm so grateful everyone is here.
And please, everybody take a minute to go to my website, kristensnowden.com. It has been recently redesigned to provide you a ton of new resources. My goal is to get out quality research-based material to you so that you can begin your journey to healing. and discovery of better understanding what's going on and the healthiest steps forward. So please go to kristensnowden.com. I have some new online courses that you can access that are affordable, that are accessible, that are ready now to give you the help that you need, along with live workshops and blogs and other things that are there to help you out. So I look forward to hearing from you. Email me at kristensnowdenmft@gmail.com. And please check out my website or join my mailing list. See you next month.